Before we dive into tonight's story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button like you're ringing for room service at a 5-star hotel. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we've got cooking. There's been yet another planning meeting, except this time I wasn't invited. I didn't even know about it until I got back from class and found Cassie and Maria waiting for me in the living room. They'd made hot chocolate and Cassie baked chocolate chip cookies, so I knew immediately that I wasn't going to like what they had to say. However, I do appreciate the bribery. It was very thoughtful. Bad news does go over better when your friends are also shoveling a mountain of your favorite sweets on top of it. They'd devised a plan to keep me out of the power plant. It was the "Ashley isn't allowed to walk to class alone anymore" plan. They'd gone over my schedule and figured out who was available to walk with me to class and then be waiting at the classroom door when class was over. Some gaps weren't covered, so they called up Josh and asked him for help. If you forget who Josh is, he's the guy we helped out with the millions and has, according to Cassie, 1 million boyfriends. Though from talking to him, I think it's been more like 5. Since he's already familiar with the inhuman things around campus, Cassie and Maria felt they could safely fill him in on the situation and ask for his help. Between the 3 of them, they were able to cover my entire schedule. Also, they'd put alarms on the window of my bedroom and my door, so I couldn't sneak out at night while Cassie was asleep. She was the only one who would have access to disarm them. "What if I have to go to the bathroom at night?" I asked. "You call and wake me up," Cassie said firmly. "It's going to suck for everyone, I know. We'll get through it." The plan seemed mostly sound to me. Unless I got up and walked out in the middle of class, I wouldn't be able to get to the power plant without someone I trusted knowing it was happening. There was, however, one question that remained. How were they going to stop me from ignoring them and walking off towards the power plant? "Well, we're hoping we can snap you out of it before you reach the power plant," Maria said nervously. "Oh, quit mincing words," Cassie said grimly. "I'm gonna slap the shit out of you until you wake up." Yeah, I hate this plan. At this point, they've been monitoring me for about a week. The first couple of days were okay. It wasn't bad having someone to walk with to class. I admit I've been enjoying walking by myself because after having grown up with a big family, solitude has been an interesting change. But I also enjoy having someone to talk to. Unfortunately, I think what I like is the ability to choose either. And now that I'd opted into one by default, I found that it very quickly became tedious. By the 3rd day, I was about to bite Cassie's head off, which I conveyed to Josh, who was walking me back from class 2 hours later. And he made the brilliant suggestion of being honest with everyone and explaining that I just needed some alone time with my thoughts, and to wear earbuds. So that's helped a little. This whole arrangement is incredibly restrictive, though. Everyone is being super cool about it. I can legit be like, "Hey, I want to go to the student union," and the 3 of them will make sure I don't go alone. But having to ask feels intrusive because I know they're shuffling their plans to accommodate me, so then I feel guilty for asking, and then I feel resentful that I have to even ask, and I'm sure at some point they're going to start resenting me for interfering with their lives. I'm not sure how long we'll be able to keep this up. I've already told them we need to keep working on a permanent solution, and everyone agrees. They'd already been trying to find one. They tried to destroy the pool of water. Cassie and Maria snuck into the power plant basement and poured a bag of concrete mix into it, but the pool swallowed it up and nothing happened. Neither of them seemed undeterred by that failure, and they promised they were going to keep trying. Are you as entertained as I am? Watch and subscribe to the channel to complete the details of the story. Subscribe to the channel if you love your mother, and do not forget, I am watching you. I won't find out about their plans until after the fact. Let me tell you, as the person who's been involved in everything so far, it feels extraordinary to be left out of something so dangerously critical. A remote part of my mind is whispering that turnabout is fair play, and maybe this is what it felt like to be left out of my scheming. I feel a little guilty. I wish I could help them, but I'm not coming up with any ideas right now. The constant surveillance has also meant I haven't been able to get in contact with the devil. I've thought very hard about wanting to meet with him, hoping that he'll find a time to show up, like when I'm alone in my room. But he's remained stubbornly absent. I'm starting to wonder if he's waiting for me to take care of the Folklore Society's problem with the thing in the hallway. He threw me into that and promised a reward if I did. I feel like maybe this is a trial of his, something I have to accomplish before I get any more non-grade-related help. Which brings me to the important part of this post. I got pulled into a group chat between some members of the Folklore Society and one of their friends. The last message read, "Someone invited Ashley, I think we need her help." I hastily read up, and my heart sank the further I got. The conversation started with the friend of the club member contacting her for help, and then she looped in the club president, and then he looped in the inner circle, and then they finally pulled me in. The friend was in a classroom in the English building. The thing in the hallway was outside, and it was sitting there, and had been sitting there for the past 20 minutes. The class would end in 30 minutes. It showed no sign of leaving. She wasn't sure how many students in the class were visible to the creature and vice versa. At least 2, she thought, judging by how one was whimpering and another was crying. No one had looked at it, at least. The professor was still teaching as if nothing was wrong. They'd already gone through several ideas. Pulling the fire alarm was deemed too risky. Maybe the chaos would drive it off, or maybe it'd drive the whole class into its mouth. They couldn't break a window and get people out that way, as the classroom was on the 2nd floor. They didn't want to wait until the class was over because, again, it was waiting just outside the door, and the friend was afraid someone's nerve would break before then. So they brought me in to help, and I just sat there at my desk, staring at my phone in horror, with not a single idea of what to do. This thing had killed the laundry lady. What could I possibly do? I went and found Cassie in her room and handed her my phone so she could read the conversation. She sucked in air through her teeth. "Okay, I'll call Maria," she said. "You call whoever you can think of to help us. Then we all meet up outside the English building as fast as we can." "I don't have a plan. We'll think of one when we get there, but we need to be there before we can do anything." Well, she wasn't wrong. I messaged the group chat saying that we were going to meet up outside the English building so that we'd at least be close to the problem. By we, I meant Cassie, Maria, and I, but they took it to mean all of them as well. Part of me balked at it, but then I firmly told myself that no, maybe it was better this way. Strength in numbers. Someone might have an idea. And these people had dealt with the thing in the hallway before. They knew it was dangerous, and they were unlikely to do something dangerous. I hesitated before I texted the last person I could think of. Cassie wouldn't approve, I thought. Hell, she'd probably be angry. But this felt like an emergency, a break glass sort of situation where we couldn't be choosy about the kind of help we invited in. I texted Grayson and asked him to meet me at the English building. It was an emergency, I said, and he, having no idea what I knew about him, said he'd be there. Cassie cursed under her breath as we approached the building. The Folklore Society had largely beaten us there and were milling about at the front entrance anxiously. And off to the side, on the sidewalk, was Grayson. He looked nervous. His shoulders were hunched and his hands were stuffed in his pockets. "Let me talk to him," I said to Cassie. "You go brainstorm with the folklore folks for a hot minute." "Are you sure you're up to talking with him?" "Nope." I took a deep breath. "But we need to figure out how to deal with this creature like yesterday, and he's our best source of information." I walked over to him. He glanced at me, and then his gaze slid over to Cassie and the rest of the students that had gathered. "How big of an emergency is this?" he asked. "The creature in the hallway is camping outside a classroom," I said. His gaze sharpened on me. I explained what was happening and that all of us were there to figure out what to do. I felt the seconds crawling by, and I couldn't help but think the longer this took, the more likely it was that the creature would call to someone and it'd eat them. The students trapped in there would have to listen to the snapping of bones. "You have to have a solution," I said urgently. "You have to know something." "Just because I'm the president's son—" "I know you're not human," I hissed. "I know you can do something about this." His eyes went wide for a moment, and then they narrowed. His demeanor shifted slightly. His shoulders were drawn tight, and his face was tense. Grayson wasn't surprised by what I'd said. He was wary. He'd known this whole time exactly what he was, and had been hiding it from me. I wish I could say I didn't expect exactly this. "Okay," he said quietly. "So you know. Let's just address that later, okay?" "Yeah," I replied breathlessly. "Problem at hand first." "Right. There's a few things on this campus that I can't do anything about. The thing in the hallway is one of them." "Why not?" "I don't understand how you work. I can't get close to that creature and still be at my full capacity. I have authority over the creatures around here, and no, it's not because I'm the president's son. It's because of what I am, but it gets stretched thin in places." He was so calm during this discussion. He wasn't angry. He wasn't upset. He was just, well, he was the Grayson I've known all along. I guess I expected him to change when everything was out in the open, but maybe this is how he is. The person I got to know over the past couple of years is everything that he is as an inhuman as well. "It's like a creature in its lair, isn't it?" I said. "That thing is too deep inside the building. Its lair, right?" "Sure, that analogy works." "So we get it out of the lair." Grayson's eyes narrowed to mere slits. He stared at me long and hard, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw the mask slip. The humanity he'd been mimicking so well for so long vanished, and there was nothing but inhuman cunning as he considered what I was saying. "I don't like it," he finally said. "Someone has to go in there and draw it out. Be bait. That's what you're thinking." "It could work, couldn't it? And you're going to volunteer?" "Well, yes." He brushed past me without another word. He walked straight up to the small huddle of Folklore Society members. "Hey," he said loudly, "does anyone here run? Or play any kind of sport that involves running?" A hand tentatively raised, one of the male students. "Great," Grayson said. "And you've got longer legs than Ashley. Perfect. Care to bait a monster?" So I guess it was more that I hadn't thought to pick someone better suited to running away that Grayson took issue with than the plan itself. We very quickly hashed out what was going to happen. The creature was on the second floor, and we needed it down on the first, close to the entrance. Grayson didn't specify why. He just glossed over why that was important by telling them that he lived around here and knew a bit more about the campus creatures than the average person, and added that it would take too long to explain and we needed to move fast. The Folklore Society nodded, accepting that as explanation enough, because apparently if I trusted him, then so would they. Cassie, however, glared at both of us the entire time. "I just don't know if it's going to pursue down the stairs," Grayson said thoughtfully. "If it doesn't, we'll need to think of a different plan." "Then let's get this rolling so we don't run out of time," our volunteer said with way more confidence than I think any of us felt. He vanished into the building. The rest of the Folklore Society stayed outside. They'd warn off any students trying to enter the building by lying about a fire alarm going off or something. Then Grayson went inside, and after a moment of hesitation, I went with him. He stood just inside the entrance, staring off down the hallway. He spared a glance for me and let out a soft sigh. "You don't need to be here," he said softly. "I know. I just didn't want to see someone else I cared about be killed. Maybe that was it. I'm not sure." "So what are you going to do when it gets down here?" I asked instead. "We're going to chat," he said grimly. "I'll explain that it can't keep hunting like this, and if it keeps at it, then I will find a way to drag it outside, and it will die. Bet you didn't see that coming. Watch to subscribe to the channel to complete the details of the story. Subscribe to the channel if you love surprises, and don't forget, I am watching you." Oh my God. I wasn't sure if it was because I knew he was inhuman now and he didn't have to hide parts of himself anymore, or if he was just that fed up, but from the tone of Grayson's voice, it was clear that he meant what he said. He would take on the thing in the hallway if he had to, which was something not even the laundry lady dared to do, not until it was either that or watch me die. I started to ask Grayson what he was, because this meant he wasn't like the president. He was something different, something with actual power behind him. But there was a bang like a gunshot from deep inside the building. Grayson's brow furrowed. "The stairwell doors. That's what that was," he whispered. "We should have propped those open. That's going to slow our bait down." Cool, cool. So even humans can miscalculate. Great to know. I began to breathe rapidly, short, panicked breaths, as my mind screamed that this was all going wrong and it would be my fault because I'd invited Grayson here and they'd trusted me. Beside me, Grayson took my hand and squeezed it. He continued staring straight ahead. There. Footsteps. I heard footsteps on the stairwell, descending at a breakneck pace. Then our volunteer appeared, far, far at the other end of the hallway, and right behind him was the creature. It flowed down the stairwell like a snake, like it was made of jelly, its mouth distended and open wide so that all we could see was its throat and its teeth. It was right on his heels, and Grayson's hand tightened on mine, nearly crushing my fingers between his. "The classroom!" Grayson yelled, taking a step forward. "Get inside a classroom!" Because he wasn't going to make it to us before that creature caught up. Our runner had the presence of mind to do as Grayson said, but he skidded on the floor, overshot the open doorway, and then... He should have continued. He should have kept going. But he turned to reverse, to throw himself inside, and he fell. I wrenched my hand from Grayson's, and I was running forward, yelling at the creature, telling it that, hey, here I was. Did it remember me? Did it remember how I got away? And now here I was, right in front of it. The creature twisted away from our runner, who was halfway inside the classroom, whose legs were within easy reach, and it turned away and went past him, directly for me. "Ashley!" Grayson screamed from behind me. I turned. I ran. But I had no forward momentum yet. I didn't have my feet under me yet, and that creature was nothing but momentum, and I saw from the look on Grayson's face that it was gaining, and I, too, was going to be too slow. Something latched around my legs and pulled them out from under me. I landed hard on my chest. The impact knocked all the air out of my lungs, and I couldn't breathe in. I couldn't get oxygen inside me because I felt something like fingers, as big as tree branches, wrapped around my legs, and I was going backward. I was being dragged backward towards the creature. I wanted to scream. I was screaming. Deep inside my mind, I was screaming with everything I could, but my body was somewhere else, somewhere far away, and all that managed to make it out was panicked gasps that wrenched at my whole chest, turning into a strangled mewling noise. I moved my hands weakly, trying to slap at the fingers wrapped around my legs. The hallway lights overhead burned into my eyes like the sun itself. Everything was too bright, too loud, and I felt worthless. I hated myself, and there wasn't anything specific. There was just hatred for everything I was, because it was me and no other reason. Like everything I was loathsome. There was a sharp jerk under my arms. Grayson's face floated into my field of vision. I saw his legs next to my body, heels digging into the linoleum as he struggled to find purchase, and there was pressure. He was pulling, trying to drag me out of the creature's grip. "Damn you!" he cried. "Why do you have to be so difficult?" In retrospect, I'm not sure if he was yelling at me or the creature in the hallway. There was a sound, like the pattern of raindrops, I thought, except it wasn't rain. It was footsteps. Footsteps at a run, and suddenly they were there, all of them. Cassie and Maria and the entire inner circle of the Folklore Society. They were all around me, and I felt more hands on my arms, and I twisted my head and saw hands around Grayson's arms and his waist as well. They were all hanging on and pulling and yelling at each other. And then it turned into one chorus, with Cassie's voice the loudest, yelling at all of them to pull. And they did in unison, and on the second pull, I felt my legs slip in the creature's grip. I stared up at its eyes, barely visible underneath sagging flesh. It stared down at me with shining black orbs. My friends had come for me because they didn't hate me. They didn't think I was worthless. They were here, risking their lives, dragging me out of the grip of something monstrous. And I felt the creature's grip relinquish, and it began to retreat. Grayson followed it, alone, walking steadily towards it, following it as it slithered backward down the hallway. He was saying something, but his voice was muted, and I could not hear the words. Then it vanished into the stairwell, and the door slammed shut behind it. Cassie was almost crying with relief. She grabbed me, hugged me, then shook me and yelled that I couldn't keep doing this to her, that she couldn't handle it anymore. Then she hugged me again, and then there was some more shaking and yelling. "Did we stop it?" the Folklore Society president asked anxiously, once everyone had calmed down a little. "Temporarily," Grayson replied, having rejoined the group. "Hopefully it won't resurface until next year." "What did you do?" "Gave it a stern warning." He answered the president casually, without hesitation, and the president only stared at him in suspicion. He didn't believe Grayson, but I think Grayson was being perfectly honest. I think he did warn of the creature from misbehaving. I'm not sure if we got it close enough to the entrance for Grayson's authority to work, but Grayson seemed confident, so I'm going to assume that warning will be enough. But if it isn't, I think I know how to handle that creature. Those emotions I felt when it turned its attention on me. These creatures are a reflection of our fears, and this campus is brimming with anxious wrecks desperately afraid they'll fail at school, at life, everything. Myself included. Sometimes, late at night, it feels like those fears are my entire world, like they've grown inside my chest and up my throat, cutting off my ability to breathe and choking me. If that is the root of what created this creature, then the way to defeat it is also a reflection of reality. I suggested this to Cassie after we'd all parted ways. Grayson seemed like he wanted to follow us back to our apartment, but Cassie did that "I'm watching you" thing with her fingers at him, and he seemed to think it prudent to have the "so your best friend's ex-boyfriend isn't human" conversation some other day. "I think we need to change the rule," I said, once we were back at our apartment. "We didn't kill that thing, but we beat it. We won. All of us together. It's dangerous, and there's no guarantee it'll work, but it's better than simply accepting that someone is going to die every time he emerges from the depths of the building." Rule number 2. If you fall asleep in class and no one is around when you wake up, stay at your desk. Pretend you're taking notes. Don't look up and don't look around, no matter what you hear. You'll be returned to your classroom when it leaves. Rule number 2A. If someone does look at the creature in the hallway, everyone in the class must stop them from leaving. Grab hold of them, grab hold of each other, and pull them away from the door. Do not let go until the creature retreats. This is the only way to save their life.